I cannot believe the Toronto Maple Leafs just got rid of Brendan Shanahan. This is crazy. I was not seeing this. This was not supposed to happen. It's crazy that that just happened. I can't believe this is happening to him. Realistically, this should not have happened. Oh my gosh. Like, I can't believe I'm making this video saying Brendan Shanahan has been let go and parted ways with the Toronto Maple Leafs. I can't believe this. Okay, I'm sorry. That's a lie. That's rage bait right there. That's full on rage bait. Okay? The fact is, no one is shocked. This is the most expected news in the NHL I think that has happened in the last year. Like that everyone knew Brendan Shanahan was not returning to the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I think it was pretty obvious, especially yesterday when the Toronto Maple Leafs and MSLE made him available to the New York Islanders for their president position. And yes, after that, the writing was on the wall, and it was just a matter of making it official that Brendan Shanahan will no longer be the president of the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I want to get this right. The Toronto Maple Leafs put out a post saying MLSE announced the contract for the team president and alternative governor, Brendan Shanahan, would not be renewed. Very interesting wording. Just saying that he was not renewed, not saying that he was fired, not saying that they parted ways, not saying anything. But we can assume this means when a team no longer wants your services anymore, or an employer no longer wants your services anymore, it means it's time to move on and you were fired. Or you were simply just let go. That's the best way to put it. Laid off from your job. A lot of people in the world have been laid off from their jobs. And Brendan Shanahan joins that list today. Listen, the Shana plan. Let's talk about it. If you're looking at this and you're gonna grade this in a vacuum of what Brendan Shanahan has done for the Toronto Maple Leafs since joining the team in 2014, he's done a lot. He's seen a lot. He's been around for a lot of things. He's been there for the Babcock era. He's been there through the Keefe era, and he's been there for the start of the Berube era. In terms of coaches, he was there for Lou Lamoriello, he was there for Kyle Dubas, and he was there when he hired Brad Treliving. Usually, we don't see that much turnover for one president or one certain higher up person that makes more of the decisions. Yeah, like for him to last that long and go through this much crap, like in terms of where the Maple Leafs have been every single year, I'm shocked. I'm shocked in that sense that he lasted this long. Do I think it was a failure? No. Do I think it was successful? No. I think it's somewhere in the middle. I think he found some success, but it was also dealt with failure because at the very end, you didn't get the job done. You didn't win the Stanley Cup, which is what everyone set to achieve when you take a head coaching job or GM job or sign with a team or, in his case, become the president of a team. The whole point is to try and win the Stanley Cup, and that did not happen. So in that point, yes, if you want to classify it as a failure, sure, classify as a failure. I don't look at it that way. I look at a lot of positive things that he's done over his last 11 years. And some of them not being on the ice, rebuilding the alumni community, retiring some numbers that need to be retired, strengthening stuff off the ice as well. And that's going to be overlooked at this point in time. It's not going to be something that everyone's going to talk about. It's everything that we're going to talk about is Mitch Marner, Austin Matthews, William Nylander. And yes, we're going to talk about that right now. When Brendan Shanahan took over, it was the best thing that had happened was, even though it was a complete disaster, was the 4-1 blown lead for the Maple Leafs in the last since 2004. And at that point, the organization was in some dark days. But you then draft William Nylander, and then the year after you draft Mitch Marner, and the year after that you get the first overall pick and you draft Austin Matthews. That's when the core was born. That's really when the core was born for this Toronto Maple Leafs team. And the core was in a great position. Up until Austin Matthews was drafted and was given the B bonuses. And the B bonuses are when you are on your rookie deal and you're able to get and you're able to get bonuses for scoring goals, getting assists, getting or achieving a certain point threshold. Mitch Marner and William Nylander didn't get those B bonuses. They never did. And so when you set the standard with those two that they weren't going to get B bonuses, and then you set the standard with Austin Matthews, who's the first overall pick, in my eyes, the first and fourth overall picks, not that big of a difference in terms of 3 picks. Like, yeah, sure, the first overall pick, great. We can see what happens with some of these first overall picks. They don't turn out to be the best overall players. But that's neither here nor there. The point being, the B bonuses that Austin Matthews got, that kind of set what was going to happen here for the next couple of years. And that being the William Nylander contract negotiation that dragged on to the 11th hour of December 1st, I believe. And I think that was the last day for RFAs to discuss at that point. And for the Maple Leafs to cave and give him what he wanted at that time. That was the first domino to fall. Because once you caved at that point, Mitch Marner and Austin Matthews definitely saw that and said, okay, well, if he got what he wanted, I'm going to get what I want. And that's what happened. They paid Mitch Marner to be the highest paid winger in the league at the time. Shouldn't have been. They paid Austin Matthews a ridiculous contract at the time. Shouldn't have paid that. And they signed John Tavares, which at the time was a great signing, just overpaid in terms of setting a standard with this young core. Because once you saw Tavares' numbers, and Tavares' numbers weren't as good as Mitch and Austin, well, you set a standard that you have to then match with everyone else. So that's where everything led. I understand though, because you wanted to sign Tavares, and you kind of needed to give him a big contract because he's a UFA. He was offered $13 million from San Jose. He decided to take $2 million less and go to Toronto for $11 million. So yeah, at the time he did take a pay cut as well to come to his hometown team. That's just everything in a nutshell. That's what starts this whole failure of a plan that Brendan Shanahan put together, was just the fact of just handing out contracts. And I'm not saying that Mitch Marner's a bad player by any means. He's literally a top 20 player in the league, and you can't debate that. Austin Matthews, top 10 player in the league, can't debate it. But when these guys came out of their ELCs, you could have gave them, or you could have, played a little bit more hardball and not gave them everything that they wanted right off the bat. And that's not because I don't think that they deserve the money that they get. Listen, anyone that signs a contract for a certain amount of money, they deserve that contract because they work to get that contract. But when you did that, you also took away any chance of them having any third line scoring or any secondary scoring because you wanted to invest in 4 guys. And at the end of the day, to win a Stanley Cup championship, I'm not saying that paying someone more than $10 million is the reason you're not winning a Stanley Cup championship, but you can't pay more than 4 guys more than $10 million and expect to win a Stanley Cup championship at this point where the salary cap is. That's the whole problem, is the fact that you loaded up on 4 guys in the Brendan Shanahan era and said, you guys are going to carry us to the promised land, when realistically, it takes a full team effort to really win a championship. When we go back and we look at past champions, we look at a full team and say that team is deep, 4 lines deep. And that's the way it's going to be with one of these 4 champions. And that is either the Florida Panthers, who have Lindell on their third line. Think about that. Think about that for a second. They have Lindell on their third line with Brad Marchand and Eetu Listerainen. Think about that. Then you have Carolina, who rolls all 4 lines. Yes, their names aren't as pretty and not as flashy, but they get the job done, and they're deep. Then you have Dallas' side, and you have Wyatt Johnson on the third line. Wyatt freaking Johnson on your third line. It's ridiculous to think that the Toronto Maple Leafs are going out there and competing with a third line that has no comparison and should not be compared to other teams' third lines, because they're not the same dollar value. They're just not. And so at the end of the day, when Brendan Shanahan and Kyle Dubas and all these guys decided to give out these contracts that were worth this much money to these guys, it kind of screwed them. It screwed them over because it just left them with nowhere to go in terms of signing other players. And that's what, at the end of the day, everyone's going to remember, is the fact that these four guys did not get it done under the Brendan Shanahan plan. And do I think that Brendan Shanahan probably, had an overall successful term with the Toronto Maple Leafs? To a degree, yes, but like it's so fresh in my mind that it's just like he had a successful plan and the plan worked out. In retrospect, the plan worked out. You got four superstar guys in the draft that teams usually don't get through the draft. And you had Morgan Riley, and you brought in UFAs. You brought in Matthew Nyes as well and drafted him. You brought in guys that just help surround them in terms of drafting. But then when it came to the paying of the contracts, that's where everything went wrong. The plan totally worked in terms of the success of building a great team for playoff success. Yes, that let's be honest, that did work. Where it failed in the playoff success is the fact that you just didn't have enough money to then go get depth scoring. That's where this Brendan Shanahan plan really failed. If you told any Toronto Maple Leafs fan before the Brendan Shanahan era began that you were going to make the playoffs 9 straight years, they'd tell you great. But then when you found out that you only had four guys making more than 50% of the cap, and they couldn't do anything to go past the second round because of that, well, some people might be pissed. And that's where we are today. That's literally where we are today. Some people are happy with the fact that, hey, you're a team that's now the longest standing consecutive playoff team in the NHL with 9 appearances in a row. The disappointing thing is that you haven't made it past the second round in any of those attempts and only made it to the second round twice. But man, oh man, it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that this is the way that it ends for probably Brendan Shanahan. Not probably, but ends for Brendan Shanahan and probably ends for Mitch Marner and maybe John Tavares. We'll see what happens in the offseason. But for now, that just about does it for another video on Justin Sports. Let me know your grade on Brendan Shanahan's overall tenure as president of the Toronto Maple Leafs. I'm curious to know A, B, C, or D, which one you think it is. Let me know in the comments and subscribe. If you love hockey content, you're going to want to subscribe to this channel because you're not going to want to miss anything. I'll check you later and have a great evening.